What's your soul purpose? It's what you came here to accomplish. It's also who you're meant to become so that you can make an impact by being yourself. We're all here to unlock our potential and create positive change in the world. Everything starts with you. One is not born into their purpose, one steps into their purpose. Were you born to do it? Let's find out together. Welcome to Born to Do It, where we discuss people's life path and how they align with their soul purpose. We're going to be doing things differently with this episode, but we're still going to be very much on brand, talking about creativity, authenticity, and being on the path of fulfilling what you came here to do by following your passion. So I'm excited to welcome to you content creator and visual storyteller, Janis Ozolins. Did I get that right?
You got it perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. So before we dive into the conversation, I just want to say thank you for sharing your creativity with the world because I know that you've impacted me by just sending that visual reminder every single day. When I open social media and I see your posts, I know, yes, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to follow my pursuit. What's your intention when you create those posts?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's always very nice to hear that people appreciate them, because sometimes you're just in your cave creating them, and it's always nice to hear the outside feedback. But in general, it's mostly I'm just exploring my curiosity. I in general, my philosophy when it comes to content creation and like art, call it whatever you want, is I like to create stuff I like to see. I know it's a bit mushy mashy term. You can be like, how can you really know what you like, what you like to see? But usually it is like that. I just observe what I like to see, and I have my values when it comes to like content creation. I like the simple stuff. I want to be clear, etc., etc. I like self-help, personal development type of stuff. I'm really into like creative economy and trying to help bring more people into this world. And that's usually just the messages I try to put out in my interesting way of these simple, snappy visuals, which some people do appreciate, which is wonderful.
Yeah, they're amazing. Honestly, you're just changing the tone of social media as well because we're so used to seeing people just talk about their personal life or, all the selfies. It's refreshing to see people's inner world come to life with these images because they're more than just, just doodles. They're telling a story of self-empowerment and it's simultaneously speaking, you on your journey of self-empowerment, empowering others through your art. So, I think it's changing the way we talk about art as well. So I think this is a great way to start the conversation and kind of dive into your path of being a visual storyteller. What is creativity to you, and how has it changed over the years? When you were a child, when you were a teenager, at the beginning of your career, and 2020 is highlighted here because the big pandemic did reset a lot of our values.
Yeah, it's a good question, and when I think about how creativity have changed for me when I was a kid versus now as an adult, I think it feels like it's now a lot more conscious and forced and intentional. Oh, I should be creative, so I need to do these things. While when you are like young, and I'm now like witnessing my 3-year-old and 6-year-old doing things, it's just absolutely effortless. There is no thought into it. It was just the other day I randomly, we had some thought. We were like all family together, and I was like showing my kids this small YouTube clip of, there is this street drummer called Dario Rossi or whatever. I just find it like it's super fascinating that he has his like pots and everything, and he's creating the sounds on the streets or whatever. And I was just like showing it to my kids, and like 3 minutes later, they are in their rooms, like throwing boxes on the ground, grabbing markers, and starting to make noises, which was just like a nice reminder of that childlike creativity. It's amazing, it's awesome. And I guess, I don't know, somewhere along the lines, of school, university, jobs, some social pressures and stuff, we kind of tend to lose that a bit. So yeah, as an adult, it's more conscious effort to go back into it. But when you get back into it, it's extremely rewarding and fulfilling. And yeah, I wish more people would try to connect with that childlike creativity. I'm sure everybody has something to like give or create. It's just it's fun, you know. It's
Mm,
just fun.
yeah.
It shouldn't necessarily be like you know, to try to create a change and then try to, you know, grow social media or whatever. It's just fun and pretty fulfilling. I think most people who practice something like that can definitely agree to this. So yeah, that's kind of comparing the childlike type of stuff with the current being adult and trying to express myself creatively. But yeah, when I see the screen share you've done with kind of my path, that yeah, on 2007 it was, I guess, always somewhere in the back of my mind I have had this itch for like an unconventional path, you know. I don't really want to do 9 to 5, but I don't know. I consider myself, you know, quite lazy and like, you know, whatever. Just it would be nice, but for some reason I just didn't do it. But on 2007, there was just a couple of triggers that kind of pushed me to explore again what type of businesses I could create, and I came up with. I started to research like online business, and that was super compelling. Tim Ferriss has came out with his like 4 hour work week, and then like all the internet boom was kind of taking off, and there was a lot of bloggers and stuff, and that was extremely compelling lifestyle call. You know, it wasn't really, I didn't care what I will do, but what I wanted back in 2007, it was like, hey, I want this laptop lifestyle. I want to be my own boss. I want to do things my own weird way. I have absolutely no idea what I will do, but that's kind of the direction where I want to head. And then from like 2007 until 2020, I tried a bunch of different things like YouTube, blogs, podcasts, even tried to partner with a developer building a SaaS product. So I tried many different things, quitted a lot of things. And yeah, over the years, I just, you know, picked some cues here and there, started to better understand like my values, my strengths, my weaknesses. You know, just by learning and observing others, you start to understand what works, what like dumb stuff you have done, you know, and why have you not succeeded during those years. Just there was a lot of lessons, and when I came closer to that 2020, I discovered there was a couple of cues which put me on this visual path, and that I found extremely compelling and interesting. So basically, at the end of 2020, I started to post consistently on back then Twitter. Yeah, and just some audience started to grow. I just kept pushing out stuff daily. You know, it was the first time I started to gain some sort of engagement in terms of like online audience, and yeah, kind of the rest is the rest is history. We can talk about it, but that's briefly the path that led me kind of to the visuals. And yeah, from 2020 to now, it's just been, you know, creating visuals and doing some other things and teaching others and doing a bit of freelance here and there. So yeah.
I love it. I think you dropped two keywords here. The first one was curiosity. Follow that which, is exciting and curious, and follow that which actually allows you to be into that childlike wonder, the fun. We tend to forget how to have fun as adults because we think responsibilities and chores, but creativity brings us back that room of let me enjoy this. Even if it's a workout that pushes you, your muscles to the point of exhaustion, you can still enjoy it because you know that you're investing in yourself. And I think that's a mindset shift that we're learning how to embrace right now. We're learning how to be more childlike as adults because we understand that has an impact on the children that we're raising, the younger generations that are looking to for inspiration to us. We're becoming the new types of role models because maybe we didn't have role models growing up. But I also love that you are very honest about that path of trying new things, and some of them didn't work out, and that's fine because we proceed forward, because that path of embracing failure and learning from it is something that a lot of successful people, they try to avoid talking about it, but I think that's important. Letting people know that you will fail, that's to be expected, but the more you fail, the closer you are to actually getting it right, finding your niche.
Yeah, I think so. And like, while are you like saying all of this, I think a good, I guess, reflecting back, a good thing that I did, I had this North Star, which was like, hey, I want this laptop lifestyle. I
Mhm.
want to be my own boss, you know. So the path there could be like, there could be millions of different paths I could take there, instead of like saying to myself, hey, I want to build this particular specific business to solve this particular problem, which can then fail, and they're like, my dream failed, and then you're kind of stuck. But by having this flexibility of different paths that take me there was, I think, very kind of, yeah, I guess it was smart in a sense, because I think while I was really reading a lot of books and hearing like on podcasts other people's stories or whatever, what I understood was that I heard many stories where people built businesses they hated, and they kind of build their own prison, go from, let's say, 9 to 5 prison to like self-employed prison. And that's something I really wanted to avoid, because I had like good 9 to 5, like no complaints. It was just like an awesome vehicle to slowly on the side build my own thing. But I committed really to build something I will enjoy. I don't want to build just another prison for myself and go from one to another. So yeah, okay, I'll stop there.
No, that's great. That is great because you just described, what is called the manifesting process. You have this vision for the life that you want to live, but you're not strict on how you want to get there. You're allowing the steps to be revealed to you, because there might be a way that's more fun, that's easier than what you pictured, that there might be just this partnership that happens out of thin air, and it allows you to have that lifestyle. But you cannot predict that, because you're not meant to know everything. You're meant to experience it as it comes. But knowing what you want also allows you to say no to the things that you don't want. And I think the next question I have for you is, why is authenticity so difficult? I think all creative people have faced this dilemma. Should I do more of that which is already selling, or should I actually pursue that which speaks to me? What if people don't resonate with who I am? Have you faced that as part of your self-discovery journey and self-growth journey?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a tough one, and it can really be a dream killer, I think, for many, because it's like, let's imagine if we think about, like, let's say online business, artsy path, I wanna make a living doing what I love. Usually you love something and you look up to some people who are, like, let's say, succeeding. Let's say somebody looks up to, maybe to me and some other visual creators who are like have big audiences or whatever, and they are like living this nice lifestyle. It's very likely that they are like, oh, I really love Janis style, I want to create something super similar. And then they might feel like, oh, I feel a bit like a copycat or whatever, and then they try kind of to imitate or whatever. And I went through the same thing. Like, one of my first inspirations was Jack Butcher. You might know from the Visualize Value. He has these black and white, super simple visuals, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. I want to create something similar. And then you're trying to create something similar, but you feel so inauthentic, and like, I'm just like trying to copying him. But I think I think first thing is, like, it's normal to understand that strong inspiration is part of the journey. Like, you shouldn't really stop there. I think David Perel has this nice quote, which is, imitate, then innovate, or something like that. And you start by imitation. Maybe you don't publish anything, but you really start to recreate some of Jack Butcher's visuals. You start to recreate something I create or whatever. But you try to, I think it's important, and some people don't do it, but it's important to, okay, I like this. I love to create something like this. I really enjoyed creating this visual, which is super similar to Janis or whatever. But now, how I can add my own values there, how I can mix and match it so it does feel like more authentic. And over time, you will come up with your own thing. Of course, at the beginning, there might be this strong inspiration, but still, like, you can put it out. You can always, like, if you feel whatever sleazy of copying somebody or whatever, give credit. If they complain or whatever, apologize, remove it. There's just be decent human online, and talk to people, and it will be very normal. Like, I don't know, it was very all over the place, but I think it's very common to feel that sense of, oh, I'm ripping him off or whatever, because you're so inspired by those people you kind of look up to, and the lifestyle you want to live. But yeah, just try to push yourself, add your own values, think about what's unique about you, how can you iterate what you don't like about it, how you can just make it different or whatever, make it more yours, change different style. I think one thing which I would recommend, let's say, if you are into this type of visual creation, don't just look on visual creators. Go really outside, go to art galleries, look at different type of artists, like modern and whatever, there is different types. Go and get inspiration there, and then maybe bring that to the visual creation. Go watch some comedy stuff and maybe bring that to the visual things. And I think it's just kind of mix and matching everything, but definitely don't let that kind of stop you, and keep innovate and iterate, and you will get in a better place. I definitely was there, definitely struggled with that, but over time, the more you create, the more you kind of start to own it, and come up with your own things. But it can be tough. I can definitely, if somebody's like, oh my god, yes, this is so hard, I definitely do agree. I think it is hard, and I don't think there are many people who come absolutely from like outside world with this absolutely new interesting concept or whatever, and it's fully theirs and whatever. Sure, there are those people, but I think it's more rare than like the regular type of thing.
There's a lot of imposter syndrome as well. I think some
Yeah.
people already know the winning idea. They can feel their intuition speak. Publish this one. This one is, more like you, but because it's not there, it's not the standard on social media. They're like, are people going to resonate with it? So they go back into that. Let me follow the footsteps of somebody who's already achieved it, somebody who's gained some recognition. But I think role models are important. I think they help us connect with that sense of energy of inspiration and impact, because an established artist is someone who's already embraced their authenticity, so they're very confident being different and owning it. And I think it's important for us to have different types of role models as well. Maybe in the beginning we're copying them, but I don't think we're actually copying their style. We're copying their confidence, we're copying their freedom to self-express themselves so well put. And maybe that's the beginning, that these are the bridges that we create towards discovering what it is that we want to build, the early steps of our legacy building, because our style is going to change as well. Our brand is going to keep expanding. If the first year is like a baby, then you start growing that brand, and it's going to go through changes. But one thing about authenticity that kind of came to mind when I was putting the slides together was that when we look how to be authentic, we're really looking how to be ourselves, how to give ourselves permission to just be ourselves. Because the next thing that we discover is that people can be judgmental. And sometimes that is the people closest to us. When we start to embrace more that creative side, when we start to innovate, start launching our businesses, our products, our courses, and people are like, well, why can't you just follow the 9 to 5? What's wrong with these jobs? Why do you have to be different? It's almost like a bit of resistance from your outside environment because you're outgrowing it. So you have to, face all kinds of questions. Well, what is my purpose of life? Why do I want these things? Why do I want that lifestyle? Why cannot I be happy with the lifestyle that my friends are having? And I think it's a bigger self-discovery journey, but it's one where, I've included the dice here. When you look on Google for answers, sometimes you're like feeling lucky. I think some people kind of lose their spark at that point of the journey where they're like, I'm just going to follow what everyone else is doing. They start taking the steps, but then they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to figure it out. And I think that's what takes them a little bit longer, because they're afraid to fully commit to being themselves. Did you face that resistance at any point from your outside environment when you were owning that authenticity?
Yeah, absolutely. What are you saying resonates a lot, and I would say when I started, I didn't have a lot of like in people around me like haters or like why can't you just be normal or whatever. But most people really didn't care. Most of there was like okay, yeah, whatever, good luck, Janis.
Mhm.
That type of attitude, and I think it's very common. It's very normal. It's just I think our kind of monkey brain takes over, and they feel like,
Mhm.
hey, we are in our little circle, and you are kind of starting to play against our little rules, and then everybody is just like, oh, why can't you be normal? Let's keep our circle safe and safe and wonderful as it is. People in general, we are kind of not prone to change. Usually we resist it. It's not our like default default way of operating. um but few things I could say here that I can like recall from my own journey, as most people didn't care. And of course I wasn't in like, I'm not that crazy. I was like, okay, you are not supporting my dream, like get out of my life. Hey, you support me, come in. It's like it's family and friends, and you love them, and you don't really like pick them. But what I did was I was kind of ignoring that noise, and I was not looking for like validation or anything kind of outside. Of course, sometimes I was, and I got maybe not the best responses or whatever, but I don't know. I guess I was naive enough. I was like, okay, whatever, you don't know anything,
Mhm.
I'll just I'll just continue to do my thing anyhow. But what I did was I was really obsessed with uh, audiobooks and podcasts and interviews, and those were kind of my indirect mentors. I was just basically I stopped for like 3 years. I think I stopped listening to music, and like on my commutes to work or doing dishes or whatever at home, I just really listened to stories, and that was extremely helpful to kind of keep me going and giving me that motivation to keep going. And yeah, it was like all those audiobooks and podcasts were like my, I don't know, Tim Ferriss or who have this quote, you're the average of 5 people you most surround yourself with. And I surrounded myself so much with that input from those audiobooks and podcasts that it kind of, I think, affected me in some sense. And that was where I kind of looked for like the validation kind of to keep going or whatever. And of course, over time changes. The more success you get, the more support you get from the outside world. And now people are like, hey, you what do you do for a living? Do you sketch these things and go around and and do this random thing? And of course, then some questions come, and you get more support from people around you as well, because they start to understand, okay, maybe it is actually a thing or whatever.
Mm.
So yeah, that's my few notes. If you don't have like a supportive environment, you can really get these indirect mentors from from podcasts and audiobooks, and I think they do help.
Yeah. What's the go-to podcast that you would recommend for somebody who's on this path? What's the first one they need to start with?
Oh, they really have changed over time. I've, of course, like a good classic is like the Tim Ferriss show, but usually I check like the interviews. Hey, I'm interested in this person, and I listen to that interview. So it's more like that relationship with that podcast. But maybe at the beginning I listen to it more. I really recently I have discovered, as I'm kind of creating my own book, I really enjoyed David Perel's How I Write, where basically he
Okay.
interviews famous authors and people, and mostly the whole conversation is tailored to like writing process and stuff, which is very interesting to see. I don't know if you're big in creator economy. Jay Klaus has this how it's called, I think he changed his name, but it was Creative Elements, I think. That's a good one. So yeah, there's a bunch of it, but usually when people ask me for like podcast advice or book advice, I usually give different answers to different people, because depends on where they are in life or whatever, or what problems they try to solve. So that's very contextual, but those are my picks. I like My First Million as well. That's most like a business
Mm,
podcast, but
yeah.
there's like just two two friends just talking and chatting business, and it's like a fun conversation, and sometimes you get some interesting just random ideas there. That's good one as well.
What's one book you would recommend when it comes to authenticity?
Authenticity. Nobody have asked me really, and I haven't thought about it. Like the first thing that came to mind, I know I listened to this book and I really loved it. I recall maybe some few things from it, but it was like from Elizabeth Gilbert, The Big Magic. I think that's
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
awesome. Uh, I think Austin Kleon is really good with his like trilogy of Still Like an Artist and Show Your
Mhm.
Work and Keep Going. Those are great. I really enjoy work by Derek Sivers. I think the one the book that I have recommended the most is Anything You Want by Derek Sivers. It's just short little stories, and it's extremely short. You can like read it in 1.5 hours. Yeah, that's a good one. I think like the classic. It's super outdated in some sense, but the 4 Hour Work Week was the book that kind of put me on the path and made me realize that holy Ash, like Janis, you don't know anything. There is so
There's
much to
more to
learn.
life.
Yeah. It really sent me on a new dimension I didn't know exist, and kind of knocked out my mid 20-year-old confidence that I know stuff and I understand life. So that was a good one as well.
Yeah, I mean, part of the ego has to be destroyed so that you can expand your consciousness and see the bigger picture. But
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that, the 4-day week also talks about having more freedom to explore that creativity, because when we over task ourselves, we restrict that creativity. We have so much to think about. There's not enough breathing room for those ideas to bloom and blossom and for us to pick them up and kind of say, well, what can I create with this one? So that kind of ties in. The more you free space to be creative, the better, the bigger your ideas are going to be. It kind of makes sense, but not in a logical way, in a creative way, which is not how society is kind of structured. But what makes a project worth exploring? I think that's one of the biggest questions, especially for all the content creators out there. We know there is a big boom right now. A lot of people are transitioning to being full-time freelance artists, writers, and especially like social media content creators, because they can connect with leads and clients and partners in seconds, which is, a new way of connecting with people and creating communities. What are the signs that you've discovered within your own creative journey so far that makes you believe, yeah, this is worth exploring? Or do we assign the meaning as we go along? Can we believe, I'm going to fight for this because I believe in it?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I think, yeah, context really matters. I think the first thing that comes to mind, you really need to understand a bit like your values and your goals, etc. Because maybe you're like, Elon Musk, who wants to take us to the Mars or whatever, and like you are pursuing that goal regardless of the struggles and resistance and just crying in bed and struggling with everything, and everything's super hard, but you are so tied to that goal that you will pursue it regardless,
Mhm.
like a crazy person. Maybe you're that one. I'm not that person. Like basically my goals were like, hey, I want this awesome whatever freedom type of lifestyle where I control my own schedule, do my own things, and live pretty much how I want, at the same time like doing something I love. Because like most of us know that sitting at the beach and sipping pina coladas will maybe make you happy for a few days, but it will fade, and you want to do
Mhm.
something. Like we are humans, we need to do something. So I want to do something I will love. I want this freedom. I don't want employees, I don't want that type of stuff. At least now that's still like that. And it always feels good to create something, where like other people value this, etc. And that's like, it kind of goes together with like, if other people will value, there's probably a chance kind of to monetize it or whatever. I guess my basic philosophy or thinking was like, hey, if I can authentically build an audience, like sharing content and not doing like sleazy tactics, or weird things that some people do. If I can authentically, through my content and like being just a normal human online, build an audience, there probably will be ways how to monetize that audience, which ended up true. So going going back to this question, I think, yeah, it's important to understand those values. Maybe you are super passionate or obsessed about, I think, some sort of artsy type of thing you are doing, but there's not really this market fit. I don't know what to say to you. Maybe the life you want and the life you want to live is try to make it so there is some sort of market fit and your thing can thrive or whatever. But it could be the case that maybe you can't, and maybe you need to work, weird side jobs or whatever, or do things on the side to pursue this thing. I think that could be the case. And if that's your case, I don't know, you just need to understand it. But at least for me, as I had these two goals, the freedom, do what you love, I always tried to get the overlap of
Mhm.
of like, hey, this is what I like, and there is some market fit as well. So uh yeah, and I guess those 4 years when I tried like YouTube and various different other things, I was looking at other aspects of like my values and strengths and weaknesses. For example, when I pursued YouTube, like big inspiration for me was like Matt Diavel. I don't know if you know him, but he makes these very polished, interesting videos. It's super high quality. Like he's a filmmaker and always adds jokes and funny stuff. A very high production. I was like super inspired by him, and like I did like 5 videos, and I like bought expensive gear or whatever, which was like a mistake. But some of us do make it. We think the gear will will take us to the to where we want to be. But what I learned from that, I did enjoy it, like the video creation process, etc. But it felt like I'm doing this 9 to 5. My kids were about to get born and stuff. Like this didn't felt sustainable. I didn't love it that much to kind of pursue it. Maybe later in life there will be a place for that, but it wasn't then. And I kind of kept exploring. And one of the reasons why I ended up with visuals was the stuff, as I said like a bit previously, like I consider myself like a bit lazy. I'm like always trying to find like the easy route to things. And when I was young, I didn't really ever develop like a reading habit. Most of the books I have consumed is through audio. And what drawn me to the visuals was like the simplicity of consumption. So I can like deliver these ideas in this extremely simple whatever way, and the creation process is kind of similar as well. Of course, like the few first drawings will be maybe tough for you to go on Figma and figure it out, but trust me, like after you can watch like 5 YouTube videos, get the basics of Figma done, or whatever, Canva or whatever is your tool of choice, get going, and it will come easier, especially if you adapt some sort of minimalistic style like I do, or for example Jack Butcher. The majority of work now when I create those visuals is the brainstorming. It's something that most of us love. Even in like the corporate world, everybody loves to go to the whiteboard and sketch out ideas, and we could do this and that. And that's kind of the biggest part of my work when I create visuals. Going to the computer and quickly design the thing is actually super fast and easy. And back then, when I was trying to figure out my own thing, there was this overlap of like, hey, there are these values, like I value this, I value that. This does feel sustainable because I can go about my day coming up with these concepts, sketch some things out, then go at home, take whatever 20 minutes and draw it. So yeah, there was a lot of these like values and my strengths and weaknesses, and I guess life situation as well. And then was just a point where I kind of committed and I started to post daily, and I started to saw this market fit as well. Hey, first time like people start to appreciate the stuff. I see some growth. Let's go. So I guess it's a long answer, but that's kind of, you need to understand your stuff and you need to find that market fit with your own passion. At least that's my take on it. That's my experience. I'm sure there are other ways and other opinions that are super valid.
Yeah,
Well.
I mean, follow the meaning. That's probably the main thing. If it's meaningful to you, then there's something there for you to explore, for you to bring into the world. We usually have our dreams and our goals for a reason, even if they confuse us at times. There's something that keeps pushing us in a specific direction because there's something that we need to explore and bring into the world. And you keep saying, "Oh, I'm a little bit lazy and I like to, take the shortcuts and make life easier." But what's wrong with that? We've been conditioned to believe in hustle culture and working 24/7. I think we're all kind of realizing that there is an easier path, and we're trying to create the kind of content that allows us to have that lifestyle because we've realized the other lifestyle doesn't work for us. So we're thinking from the perspective of, what if we were the consumer of that? How do we want to consume it? So you're able to position yourself both as the creator and the consumer to realize, what is it that I actually want to create, that what is it that I actually want to consume. So I think that's a great way for you to prioritize the needs of your audience while pursuing that entrepreneurial path. And one of your visuals kind of strikes gold: expectations versus reality, and why most people give up. Because it's a long journey. You're playing the long game. When you're trying to change your lifestyle from a 9 to 5 to that, let me get my laptop and travel the whole world, that's going to take a little bit of a transitional period for you to actually achieve it. And usually most people give up right before they, have that breakthrough, right before they can afford that lifestyle. And it's a test to their commitment, I suppose. And some people will never achieve their potential because they give up too early, and some people don't stop. As you mentioned, Elon Musk, he's not going to stop. He's declared it to the world. Mars is the mission. And I think that's what happens with the most successful people. They just declare it to the world. This is my mission. I'm not going to stop until I achieve it. And that's usually when people start to take them seriously, because otherwise it's like, well, you're just another person with dreams. So many of us have dreams, but once you actually achieve those dreams, people see you as that role model, that person that can actually get the job done. And your consistency, your journey towards, shipping that work, but also aligning with that lifestyle speaks of that. Consistency works. It might take a little bit longer, but if you believe in it, yeah. I think maybe there isn't a short answer like you mentioned. Maybe everyone's journey is a little bit different, but usually when we have these creative careers, we're playing the long game. We're not playing the short game. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think this a bit ties together with like, and I guess it was harder like 20 years ago, but now with the internet, like the career opportunities have expanded tremendously, and I think there is a decent chance to figure out a way how to make a living doing what you love, at least, 70% of the time. So yeah, and I think doing what you love really helps. When you look at the graph, at the bottom graph, it really does help to go through like, my audience is not growing, I have zero revenue, but I'm still keep going because at least I love it. Because if you will not love it, if it will not be like a big strong like drive from some sort of inner you, then it will be rather easy to quit. So yeah.
Yeah. And that takes us to, our personal branding and discovering our inner artist. There's a lot of trend predictions that this is where we're going in the next 5 to 10 years. Everyone kind of creating their own brand. We've had our branding anyway for many years, since Facebook launched, Instagram launched. We've all had brands. We just didn't think of our presence online as, our personal brand. But I think going forward, when people are applying for jobs, their online presence is going to speak of it's like a second CV almost. So that branding is going to demonstrate their authenticity, their ability to maybe do teamwork and collaborate, are they adventurous, and so on and so on and so on. How would you recommend to people to start approaching, their social media presence and their careers like that? Maybe they don't have to innovate or start the next big Apple product, but their online presence can allow them to unlock more of their inner child, more of that fun aspect, more of their personality. And you never know how somebody is going to notice them. Like you mentioned that you almost teamed up with the developer and launched this big project. You never know how your online presence is going to link to opportunities that align you with the next big project that you never saw.
Yeah, this is a interesting topic. I think one thing which I'm happy to see. I think I see the trend going like kind of the other direction, but I know a lot of people are held back of using social media more than, hey, this is what I ate for lunch, because of the fear of their employer. Hey, I don't want my employer to see that I'm trying to build a brand here, or I'm doing like whatever, if you're a developer, that I'm doing these random little apps or whatever on the side. I don't want my employer to see that. And there's like, I feel there is a bit of a switch that a lot of companies start to understand. Instead of like trying to restrict it and keep them to themselves, that the employees, instead like, let's let them embrace this thing, and then we can also like tap into their like kind of, audience or whatever. I don't know, like I don't know much about it, but at least that's how I feel the trend. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are a bit held back. But in general, I think most people just absolutely don't care. And I think you're absolutely right that a lot of people are looking to kind of build their personal brands, and it's becoming more and more important. Like your blank whatever CV is not that powerful anymore. Like people really, I think, do check out your social media. They maybe check out, if you're a developer, hey, what have you built? Where's your proof? And they see, okay, like I look at your GitHub or whatever, where I guess you can see how developers push things out. Okay, you actually do things, and I can check out your code or whatever. That's a lot more easier sell to an employer than just saying that, hey, I'm awesome and I can do all these different things. So yeah, building a personal brand, I think it's super important. I think you are putting yourself in a big advantage over others if you pursue it. And it doesn't need to be this extremely overwhelming big thing that you need massive commitment or whatever. Maybe just start by reading stuff that you're interested in, and whatever, go to your favorite social media, let's say LinkedIn, and every other week or every month say like, hey, I read these books, I learned these things, here's my takeaways, and it's a simple, easy, I guess, yes for some people, or whatever is your thing, do your art and post it on socials. If you're super have extreme doubt about putting your face out there, start with a anonymous account or Instagram, whatever. I think there are certain benefits of going with your face and your real name when you go about your personal brand, but I think there's place, and a lot of people have proved it, that you can build stuff with like these branded accounts or whatever as well. So there's many, I guess, insecurities and reasons why people don't do it, but I think there's also many reasons why people should do it, and there are many ways how you can override those like insecurities and still kind of pursue in this direction with some sort of way. So yeah, I don't know. That's I guess my take on this. But it's a really cool discussion. It's a very interesting topic. Yeah, I hope more people talk about this and give interesting insights on it.
I love that you brought the employers into the conversation because that is not something that I've considered. I've always thought about it from the perspective of somebody looking to expand their career and kind of fill the roles that are already available versus the employer. But what if, because usually change starts from the top, unless people start, to kind of revolt against the current system. But what if the employers in the next 5 to 10 years view their team as an extension of their brand? So they're the ambassadors that are going and volunteering. Therefore, the whole brand supports volunteering. What if the team members are those that go and teach at schools? Therefore, the whole brand is somebody that wants to invest in education. So we're connecting the workforce to global positive change in a different way, where you're not just tied to one brand, one office in the middle of the UK or Spain or just one country, but you're connecting in a global network where you're part of that brand, but you're also that human that is authentic, that wants to bring positive change. And your social media is the perfect place to generate these connections that bring business opportunities to the employer. It's a mindset shift because it remove some of that control that employers have gotten used to having over their employees. But we're all humans and we're here to create and innovate side by side. So there's definitely a growth opportunity if you think about it like that.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I think a lot of companies who play the cards right here can really have an advantage over the next years to come. I think you're really on point with this.
Yeah, and I think tying it back to one of your visuals, when we think about social media as, or branding as something that is very difficult and burdensome and long, think about it as a project that allows you to just be creative and show up every single day and allow the inspiration to guide you. You don't need to have your 12-month plan. That usually doesn't work. I've done a lot of content creation in the past few years, and even if you have a plan for the next 12 months, it's never going to happen according to that plan. Inspiration is going to happen. Deadlines are going to happen. You're going to meet new people. They're going to take you to places. You're going to discover parts about yourself. So it really is. You wake up every single day and you set the intention. I'm going to start. I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to have that beginner's mindset, which is once again something that we're relearning how to be beginners in life, regardless of our age, because that's the way, first of all, to stay young, to bring that childlike wonder, but also to discover what else is there in the world. Because if we go into the world every single day with the preconceived notion of these are my friends, this is my family, this is my team, the rest, I don't care about them, we're missing on opportunities for collaboration, for growth, for just expanding our inner world. So it's definitely this is a powerful visual that all of that research that we've done in the past, all the tools that we have available and that we haven't purchased yet, they matter. But what really matters the most is you starting, because you don't know where that's going to take you. You're genuinely starting a new hero's journey every single day if you think about it, that adventurous spirit.
I know. I think you're right on. You're right on.
Well, that takes us to the final point of our conversation, which is lessons of creativity. How do we actually teach creativity? And the first three aspects, school, university, and work, they probably won't change that much in the next 10 years. And this visual that you've created, how much value your idea has, is probably still going to be the same. Just because you are the smartest in your school doesn't mean that it brings any more value. Because if you are a high performer, if you're a very creative person, that means you're going to outgrow your environment really fast. So the idea is that you have might not have the value that you want them to have in your environment. So you need to expand. You need to look in different rooms, in different countries, in different networks. So your advice on listening to podcasts and connecting with those people that have traveled, that have succeeded more than you, that's a very good affirmation that you're on the right track. You just haven't found that room yet that can appreciate your ideas. Just because people cannot really appreciate your ideas right now doesn't mean that they're not good ideas, that that you shouldn't pursue them. But still, do you see any changes being made when it comes to creativity in school, university, or work? Because they're the more restricted spaces, I would say.
It's not like I have a lot of like experience or observation around this. Though I like last year I worked heavily with Anna Lorena Fabrega, who wrote the book The Learning Game, and I was lucky enough to make an illustrations for that book. So, and then she makes a lot of good arguments about what's wrong kind of with the current education system, where we have like went wrong or have stagnated for too long, and kind of showing some sort of problems, how we can fix it, not necessarily fix it, but at least how parents can contribute to it,
Mhm.
so we do it in a bit healthier way. But yeah, I think the education system definitely needs some sort of change, because like for one thing, like if I look back at my years in school, so much of it was frustration, boredom, and it wasn't like I was stupid or whatever, the problem kid, just a lot of those things were absolutely not interesting for me. And I think it's the case for many kids. And I don't think I absolutely think that there is, some base that we need to put to you. Like you need to know how to talk, how to write these basic skills. But a lot of it is in school and in university. Okay, like I will not talk about university. That's a bit specific. You kind of choose a bit your direction there. But like in school, there is still some topics where you go super deep, and some people like absolutely don't need that. Instead of
Mhm.
doing that, they would be like thriving and energized and happy if they would pursue this whatever interesting thing. So it's like almost like, I guess we need more options, so you can really opt in. Because if you look at the hours that kids spend in school, and then how much of those hours are okay doing things that maybe are hard and it's not super interesting, but those are fundamental building blocks to be a decent, human or whatever, okay, that's fine. But how much of those hours are probably absolute like waste of their potential, and just kind of killing that potential with that other type of stuff. So if we have more options, so kids can just really thrive and be creative or whatever in directions where they want, or where are their strengths, or whatever is the case, I think that's the way to go. I don't know how to get there, but like that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, but at the same time, there are more options. There are more, I guess, like more like private schools or whatever, who are looking at things and trying to do things differently. Of course, it's a matter of how much, like, again, like government, takes hold of it and try to control everything, and how much freedom we have. Like there's a lot of aspects here that contribute to this education. It's a big deal, and I'm absolutely no expert to talk into it, but that's kind of my experience and my thoughts on it. So yeah, and it's good that we have this, alternative. You can go online, you can go to YouTube and learn pretty much freaking everything. So I guess it's good at least to teach kids and young people that, hey, if you want to pursue this thing, you can go and learn here and do this and do that. Don't just wait until your teacher will give you the assignment or whatever. So kind of not killing the curiosity and the spark in kids is super important, because they have a lot of energy. They can figure stuff out like afterwards or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of ideas as well. I often joke about it. It's like a spiritual boot camp, and if it doesn't kill your creativity, congratulations, you're now proceeding. Your adult years, still having that creative spark, and using it in the workplace. But often in life, our creativity is being suppressed because we're just doing a lot of things that are taken away from our time, our potential, and our energy, like you said. And it's a missed opportunity because children are the future, essentially. And we need to allow the children to express more of their authenticity and their ideas. And the current educational system is trying to fill their minds with information instead of seeing what information wants to come out of those minds. Because just because they're kids doesn't mean that they don't make their own observations and they don't learn from different mediums as well. And I've seen that with my sister. She's always on her phone, but she always learns. She's not just wasting time playing games. She's learning through that playfulness, through that creative process. So I think children can teach us, and one day we might see the type of education where teachers are teaching children and children are teaching teachers. But in the meantime, we've got mentors that can empower us or disempower us. And I've included Michael Scott here, who's probably the biggest branded figure when it comes to the workplace from sitcoms. His brand is all about him being the world's best boss. And if you watched the show, you probably have watched it. He's one of the worst bosses you can ever have. But ironically, he's the best at being himself. And I think this is where we're trying to, normalize being ourselves. Yes, he made mistakes, a lot of them. He was imperfect, but ultimately he wanted to be himself and he wanted to contribute. And once again, ironically, that is the secret to finding your niche in the world, what the market wants and what you're intrinsically motivated to do. Because if you follow his journey in the show, he had ideas that brought money, that brought opportunities. He just wanted to be himself. So in a way, he was also a product of his environment. He wasn't truly allowed to be himself because trauma and conditioning and so on and so on. But I think our mentors can empower us or disempower us. And sometimes even the difficult mentors that we have in life, they still are a mirror to us, what we don't want to be. But essentially, authenticity and creativity, that's gonna change a little bit. The more we brand ourselves, we might see our bosses and managers portraying a different version on social media than they are in real life. And it's going to raise all kinds of conversations going forward in the workplace. So just mentors, I don't think it's enough. So I think what you've created is actually very powerful. It's mentorship through course, through giving people that community where they can learn together, but also do some of that inner work in their own space where they can come back and share what they've done. And I think this is the biggest opportunity where we empower the entrepreneurs of the future, the artists of the future, where those that have already kind of created a platform begin to onboard the next wave of artists. So tell us a little bit more about your course and how you came up with it, and what's your vision for it, you being the mentor that is empowering people to believe in themselves.
Yeah, and I think like this online education in general is so interesting and compelling. If we go back to like the university, there's like a bunch of these kids, and then there's one specific narrative, one coach or whatever. And now we have these online courses. Like there's probably hundreds of thousands of like some sort of visual teachers or whatever, and you can like specifically, hey, I really like Janis for this particular reason, I want to learn his thing or that thing, and now you have the opportunity, or pick anyone else like whom you vibe with or whatever. I think it's so cool because it has this extreme specificity that like school and university doesn't have. But yeah, it's just, there's not much to it. I created my visuals. This is like, if you read some like marketing books or whatever, when you should launch a product or whatever, I wasn't in the best situation ever, because just some people reached out to me, hey Janis, I love what you do, I love what you create, I want to learn it, can you teach me, do you have a course, do you whatever. When I got like a couple of those DMs and comments or whatever, I was like, okay, I guess it's a sign. I have learned some things, I have my way of working, my process or whatever. I can definitely pack it up and create it as a course. One thing which I'm a bit like proud of that I did is I've taken some courses myself, and I know how hard it is in a sense, when you just throw some videos to person, hey, go, here's everything I know, go learn it. Sure, everything is there, but that tailored approach, tailored feedback is super, I guess, important. And that's one thing which I did. Like if you come to my course, like whatever, read the material, understand how I do these things, how I come up with these concepts, and then I every week, every month, depends how much people submit, but I do these feedback sessions where you kind of share your visuals, share your concepts, and I'll just do Loom sessions, and I'll say, okay, I think this is good, maybe this is bad for that and that reason. We always talk about, okay, we must understand your values. Are you like trying to be more artsy, or you are trying to be clear? If you're trying to be clear, then this and that is a bit off because of these and that reasons. So yeah, it's just a nice place if people want to learn it. I have it, and then they can join, and I can share what I want. Not share what I want, but share my process and stuff. But I don't know, in terms of for the vision of the future, I don't have much to it. It's just an opportunity for people who want to learn what I do. It's the place where you can learn that. But as for me and my future, I don't have that much interest into creating a lot more courses and this type of content. I'm really into, in general, just exploring my curiosity, and I want to create books, like more like coffee table books, with a lot of illustrations, because as I said, like I mostly listen to books because I'm like a lazy reader. So if you give me big bunch of text, I get a bit overwhelmed. So I want to kind of start to create more these easy to digest books. I think Austin Kleon is a good example. It was like a very easy to digest. I don't know if you have read it, but Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It was like a nice, easy read for somebody who gets overwhelmed by a bunch of text. that was a nice book, and I aspire to create more like visual and that type of books in future. But we'll see. Like there's a lot to it. But if you want to learn visuals, that's the place. I share all my secrets and give feedback and stuff. And yeah.
Awesome. Would you ever consider going to teach at universities and change the visual, teach at colleges or schools? Would you ever consider going and giving talks around creativity and showing people a different way to approach creativity based on your experience?
I definitely would be interested. Like it depends, how much it affects the lifestyle. If I need to like fly here and there and constantly be disrupted, I guess that would be like one of the signs, which would be like a no to it. But thus far, like the workshops I've done several workshops like online, sharing to startup people recently, which was like very nice, or just other groups of people. I get a lot of energy out of it by sharing this stuff. So I'm definitely up to some opportunities, and yeah, it's nice, it's interesting. I do enjoy like sharing people the stuff I've learned.
Bring the
It's
wisdom.
good stuff.
Yeah, I love that. So this brings us to the end of this conversation. And for anyone that's watching this or listening, we're not doing a traditional natal birth chart with this conversation, because this is a good teaching moment for people that the biggest gift that we have on earth is our free will. And we get to decide how we want to spend our time, what kind of information we want to put into our minds, what kind of habits we want to bring into our daily routine. And we tend to forget that we have so much control over our lifestyle. And I think when we start to live more creatively, we open up this portal to new opportunities. And we've talked about meaning in this conversation a lot, and following that which brings us meaning, following that which excites us to be alive. And I'm just going to mention that you can find a lot of information around your natal birth chart, your sign, astrology, spirituality, and so on. But ultimately, it's your actions. You're not born into your purpose, you step into your purpose, and you get to create the life of your dreams, your dream lifestyle, by aligning every single day through your actions. So your purpose, really, you're the captain of your dreams. I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, so you're the captain of your boat. One last question I would have for you is, what would you recommend to someone who's a little bit confused on their journey, but they're feeling the call to be more creative, they're feeling the call to dig deeper into their inner quest of finding more meaning and discovering their purpose?
I think there is one quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, and I've used it a lot in my journey, and it's by just like a life coach called Brendan Burchard, and it's along the lines of, I believe in my abilities to figure things out. And what I love about that quote is that you're not kind of lying to yourself, because you might be dead poor at the moment, and you just stare at the mirror. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. But deep down, you feel like I'm freaking poor. And it's kind of, mixed messaging. But when you say to yourself, like, I believe in my abilities to figure things out, it's just like, look at your past, maybe you didn't know how to drive a car and you thought, oh my God, I will never learn this or whatever. but you did. I thought I will never learn this and that, but you did. There is so much proof in your like past that you can just take to whatever is your next thing, and just use that kind of confidence and really believe that you can figure things out. Sure, everything is super overwhelming and crazy, but move the ball forward every single day. If you don't feel like creating, maybe learn a bit, listen to a podcast for 15 minutes, feel inspired, go create the next day, etc., and just keep move that ball forward every single day. And I think good things can happen. And yeah, believe in your abilities to figure things
I
out.
love it. And as you mentioned it, you already have the potential within you. Just because it hasn't materialized into a product, into a business, into a service, doesn't mean that your potential is lost. It's still in there. You just have to keep channeling it every single day. And some of the attempts might not be as successful as others, but you're making a step forward in the right direction because you believe in your ability to create that life for yourself. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights, Yanis. I really appreciate the creativity and the messages that you're putting into the world, because you're changing the tone of our social media consumption. You've already changed my perspective, and my feed has become more colorful and more meaningful because I get to see a post every single day from you. So your hard work and your consistency is absolutely paying off. And I know many people are grateful to have you as a new type of role model. And I think that's where we're going forward. We're going to be changing our role models based on the value that they bring into our self-empowerment journey, not just people that we like for the sake of liking them, but because we truly respect what they're doing for the next generations. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think that's all. Thank you for watching, and this is going to be live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts shortly.